Hi, Evelyn. I have a funny voice today.
Oh no.
Yeah, I've got a cold.
Yeah.
Um, I'm going to put you on the agenda for an update on communications. Does that make sense? Are you ready,
Sure.
ready for that? Okay, we'll probably do that first.
Okay, sounds good.
We're going to insert it, before after general business and appearances, we're going to go to three different items that I've just discussed with Stephanie, and your communications update will be first
Sounds great.
after public comment. Okay, great.
Yeah, I was actually just before I popped on, I was just reading an article about how COVID cases are outpacing flu right now in Montpelier.
Oh, really? We
Yeah.
tested. This is not COVID, it's a
Right.
virus. My wife had it. My daughter had it. My grandkids had it Thanksgiving
Oh,
week. So
oh no, it's making the rounds.
no surprise that I've got it now. So, um, but it's this sore throat and then a little stuffiness and whatever's happening to my voice. I mean, it's very
Mm.
strange. My wife sounded like this yesterday, which was really strange.
Oh, yeah,
So,
that's no fun. Morning, Stephanie.
Hi, Evelyn.
hi,
Um,
Stephanie.
I should have told you already, Evelyn, but I did put a little note in to Sal to see if you can just give us a quick update on
Yeah,
communications.
we
Yes, he
just
just
talked
mentioned it.
about that.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. Thank you. Okay, great.
Of course. Not a ton to report on just because of the announcement of Kelly's departure that has kind of dominated my week this week. But I
Oh, I'll
No
bet.
kidding.
Yeah.
Hey Ben.
Hey guys.
Hi, Ben. You look like you're in a chopper or something. Oh, it's your car.
I wish it was a chopper style. It'd be easier driving.
Ben, are you traveling somewhere today for work? Where are you driving to?
I am. There's a smart growth event in Burlington with BNRC and AARP.
Oh, okay. Missed that. I have to go up to Newport after this, so I'm
Oh,
curious what the roads are going to be like.
is
But they
there?
didn't really get much apparently up there.
Yeah, it's a little greasy on 89. You know. Are
Not
you
looking
gonna
forward to it.
see Rick?
Yeah,
Please tell him
yeah.
I said hello.
The team. I will. I
Yeah,
will.
yeah. Mm.
Yeah,
Had some great.
I'm gonna see our new commissioner of economic development up there too. Lyle's coming up.
Oh, Lyle,
Mhm.
great. Yeah, tell him I
Yeah,
said hi too.
I
That's
will.
such a great. I was so glad to see him
Oh my gosh.
take that role. It's like
I know.
perfect.
I know. And just as I got the Rutland bond vote, it was great. I
Yeah,
was happy to see. I'll just be able
yeah,
to use him more now.
yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Just waiting for Adrian. I apologize for my funny voice. It's just
It doesn't actually sound that weird to me,
really, it
but
sounds weird to me. It's like very,
yeah, it's
very,
always
yeah,
our own interpretation.
it's like Johnny Cash, I don't know, it's weird.
Try to get to a new octave, you know.
I realized when I called you, Stephanie, that I left this message with this funny voice. I said, I should have told her who I was.
Well, yeah, especially because you have a DC number.
Yeah, right. Like, who is that? Yeah. What is 401? Rhode Island?
Rhode Island, yeah,
Yeah.
it's where I'm from, but I
Oh,
should
okay.
definitely, I've lived here 20 years, so I should probably get a new phone number, but I
Yeah,
refuse.
you guys need to commit. You need to commit and go 802.
I don't
It's
know.
time.
Changing your cell number actually could be a good thing, I guess.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, but I've had calls from people from like 20 years ago being like, I can't believe you're still at this number.
Oh, yeah. I still get magazine, vendors wanting to put an article in the next issue. Okay, we're all here. Hi, Adrian. I will call the meeting to order. On a agenda review, I'd like to add a couple of items after general business and appearances. One, a communication update from Evelyn, a Q&A discussion, Adrian, based on some of your feedback, and scheduling an additional subcommittee meeting, which we think we might need. So you're looking mysterious, but
It was
Well-
relative to the questions you've heard from the community that you might
Oh, okay. I was
Oh,
like,
yeah,
what did
okay.
in
I?
the city. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I was like, wait,
so
what
if there's no objection, we'll assume that the agenda is approved as amended.
Yes.
And we move to general business and appearances. Is there anyone online who would like to make public comment?
Yeah, Sal, you can hear me.
We can. Go ahead, Steve.
So I want to focus on the decision about selecting a short list of developers that you intend to invite to make RFPs to advance to the council. I believe this would be a catastrophic mistake, not because I say so, but because the developers themselves have already told you so. Developers told you the project is not ready. Every reputable firm responded to the RFQ, raised the warnings. Evergreen, 12 to 18 million per phase financing gap. Rift Valley said we test the hard questions now. Rent, phasing, absorption costs, or the project will fail. Multiple Vermont developers raised brownfield uncertainty, infrastructure unknowns, missing market data, traffic issues, lack of realistic feasibility work. These are not opponents of CCR. These are the people you hope will build it, and their message is consistent. Montpelier's not ready to request proposals, and definitely not ready to put the land on the table for $1. To the professionals, if the professionals are telling you to slow down, ignoring them is not leadership, it's negligence. A $1 conveyance with this level of uncertainty is reckless. Conveying public land for $1 is not a symbolic gesture. It's a binding commitment that becomes part of the developer's financial pro forma. Signals federal funders that the city is confident in its readiness, forfeits Montpelier's biggest source of leverage before environmental, legal, and traffic constraints are unknown. Doing that while the supplemental site investigation still isn't done, the corrective action plan doesn't exist, the traffic study hasn't been performed, the intersection capacity is unknown, and the 51% low and moderate income requirement is being misrepresented, both in the RFP and by Michael at the site visit. He's setting both the city and the developer up for lawsuits, federal clawbacks, redesign, and years of delay. You don't give away land before you know which parts of it are buildable, which are contaminated, and what our infrastructure will cost. That's development 101. Selecting finalists now will trap the city in false promises. If you pick the short list, these firms will invest tens of thousands of dollars preparing proposals based on assumptions that you know are not true. That traffic capacity is sufficient, that environmental review is substantially complete, that CDBG-VR infrastructure could serve majority market rate units, that buildable areas are known, that brownfield costs are quantified, that federal procurement rules are clean. None of these things are true right now. But once they spend the money developing proposals, the city will be told that we have to honor those commitments we made or will be sued. The subcommittee will have created a trap it later claims it has stepped into. The Whitenburg contingent fee contract is distorting your decisions. Whitenburg's 3% contingent fee means that their financial interest is in maximizing taxable development, not in caution, compliance, risk mitigation, or phased feasibility. Witness, they were the project manager back in 2022, and they didn't manage the brownfield. And absolutely not in slowing down. This contract violates federal procurement rules. It creates a powerful incentive to push the city into the RFP before the homework is done. When the conflict of interest is obvious, the responsible action is to remove pressure, not accelerate. You have one clean off ramp, and that's to you'll hear that we've already promised the developers we can't pause now. We'll lose momentum. It's too late to reconsider. Now is our last chance to prevent a preventable disaster. I'm not asking you to kill CCR. I'm asking you to delay. I'm not asking you to delay housing. I'm asking you to prevent years of delay, litigation, redesigns, and failed grant applications. It's not time to shortlist developers. Don't issue an RFP right now. Don't give the land away for $1 based on false assumptions. Reset the process. Finish the supplemental site investigation. Finish the corrective action plan. Do the traffic study. Resolve the contingent fee problem. Get the facts. Then choose a developer. Your choice decides whether CCR becomes Montpelier's biggest opportunity or Montpelier's biggest mistake. Thanks.
Thank you, Steve. Your comments have been noted. Let's move to the communications update.
All right. Hopefully I can get through this without it cutting out. I'm at home and my internet is not awesome at home, just FYI. So we have been cruising along, although this week we did have to I had to reshuffle some priorities just because of the announcement of Kelly's resignation. I did pause the FAQs during the Front Porch Forum or on Front Porch Forum during basically from Wednesday.
Yeah, you're breaking up,
We
Evelyn.
also,
Evelyn, you're breaking up. We're missing most of what you're saying.
okay, I'm sorry about that.
Maybe
If
it
you want
won't.
to type it into,
Maybe it
can-
won't work. Yeah.
maybe
I
you
can send an email and include it in the minutes.
Okay. That'll probably be best. Sorry.
Okay. That's okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Stephanie, you want to
Yeah.
talk a little bit about the input that from Q&A?
Yeah, let's talk a couple of things. So first of all, well, why don't we jump in, Adrian, if you're ready to ask your any questions that you've heard from the community that you might want to have answered today or that we need to look into.
Yeah, I just wanted to, I think responding to Palin's emails that she sent me, Sal and Ben, and what she's heard from the community, what I've heard from the community, just wanted to put it on the table, kind of just, risks and opportunities and pros and cons, just thinking about, Kelly's resignation and how that plays into this, if at all, right? So, we will be hiring a new city manager. This is a long-term project. And so is there, for us to discuss, should we delay the RFQ to align with that or not, right? I just wanted to make sure we had that discussion. Thinking about the proposals that came in, the two other proposals came in with a feasibility plan and one that just says it wasn't financially feasible. And then there was the 7 others that were a big mix. And so I know we'll be talking about the proposals, but I just wanted to understand, the public wants to understand, is this financially feasible, kind of thinking about, what Steve said in terms of, the constraints of the property. And, if 2 said no, I think there was a third one that, proposed, large apartment complexes, and another one said that's not feasible. So they were kind of all over the place in terms of like what their responses were. And so I think that's kind of confusing, hearing from developers, hearing from the city, like there's different stories. And I just want to make sure that we're very clear about what is the right story and how do we move forward responsibly with the least amount of risk with partners that, really understand what we're getting into and, making sure our new city manager's on board to really support this project and thinking about our timeline with the RFQ And the other piece was funding. So, just the risk of potentially not getting the state funding for this full project. Maybe we will, maybe we won't, but I think that's a risk with all types of development. And so thinking about plan A, B, and C, what if we don't get that funding? Then what do we do, right? There's a lot of if then statements, and I just
So,
want to make sure that we're clear about our plan moving forward. So that's what I've
so
heard.
yeah. So are you proposing anything?
I think we need to talk about a plan A, B, C, D.
I can respond to all of those,
Yeah.
Sal, if you want, and then we can have a discussion about some of the if-thens.
Sure,
Yeah.
let's do that.
So, my recommendation to the subcommittee is not to delay the process based on the city manager, and that's because this process has already been so established by this subcommittee and the city council that I think it won't take a large learning curve for a new city manager to come in. And not to say that the city manager doesn't play an important role, but the real power and decision making is coming from this subcommittee and the city council. I am more, I think we're in a more sensitive process part when it comes to the changeover in city council at town meeting day. And so that's what we're going to talk about in a little bit, about that timeline that's going to be put in the RFP. So I would suggest that you don't alter the timeline because you've already set up a really good process here that already allows for some change in administration without missing a beat.
Yeah, I mean, I think I understand what you're saying, Adrian, about your concern. I think there are issues that we'll need to nail down in the next. Yeah, I am. In the next couple of weeks as we go through the prep of the RFQ and the RFP, including the stuff that Mr. Whitaker has mentioned, some of which may not be valid, but we need to make sure that we have all our ducks in a row there. But I think we can do that simultaneously while we continue with our process, which is on a pretty tight timeline. I was not surprised that we got a variety of results from developers. I mean, in the bidding process, some people just can't make it work, and some people can. We don't have a lot of numbers yet. It sounded to me like Rift, for example, would like to get paid to do what everybody else is going to do for free. So
Yeah, to that point, Sal, I can just speak to that. I was just taking these questions one by one about the manager, but then the feasibility, you're right. Every developer is going to have their own different capacity and their own different cost savings and approach to things. And so that's why there's not, 10 developers for every site, right? So, everybody's got it in any development project. Different developers can make different things happen in different ways. So I want to ask the question I have for your homework. I'll just cut to the chase, is that I want to make sure you have your homework is to come up with 2 sets of questions if you have them, and to divide them into 2 different buckets. One is questions you may have for specific developers that have put forward a proposal. It can be a specific question you want answered before the RFP selection, or it could be something where you just give them the information that says, if you're selected, we're going to want this from your particular proposal. Or the second bucket is the longer term, which is what question may you want added to the RFP itself that everyone answers. It could be specific to the finances. You could specifically put that question to them. This has been raised that there's this gap. How do you address that? You could be that direct. They're going to be showing us their pro forma anyway, so that kind of answers that question, but it doesn't hurt if you have something more specific, because you definitely want to be able to go back to your constituents and explain it. So that's going to be your homework, is coming up with those questions. And then the third response was about funding. And I can speak to it briefly, and then if Mike has anything to add, the way this works in any development project is that you go forward as a team. This is a public-private partnership, and so all parties are looking for sources of funding. And so everything's contingent until it's secured. And so you have a development agreement with lots of off-ramps for both parties in case those finances don't come to fruition. And so oftentimes you'll have a party that has a grant or a source that falls through, and you have to then pause and look further. The beauty of being able to come together with a partner now is that you've got that much more power as a team and that much more confidence, and you're able to go out and secure more of those funding sources. And then, if for some reason CDBG-DR didn't come through for some reason, and we need to look for more sources, you have then a partner that is hopefully willing to be patient with you. If they're not, you've now gone through this process where you have lots of interest. You've got this, deep bench of folks who are interested, and you may be able to go back to them. Sometimes this is iterative. Really hard, complex projects stall and re-pick back up and stall again and pick back up. But that's how they get done eventually, because these are really complex things. And this is a really large scale, huge legacy project. And so it's just going to take the time it takes. But you have to go forward in confidence, right?
Thanks, Stephanie. I think you've reviewed some of that stuff before. It's good to hear it again. I think with Mike, do you have anything to add?
I mean, in a more kind of going back a little bit more general. I mean, we've got a good understanding of the brownfields. I know things get misrepresented. This is a pretty straightforward site. The next steps that are going on, and I think the developers are going to recognize this, that the next steps that are going forward are really just to calculate how much it's going to cost. And it's not going to cost the developers anything to clean up the brownfield. There's going to be funds we're going to be getting through the Regional Planning Commission for cleanup down the road. So that's pretty straightforward. The intersection's already been studied, all the traffic stuff. We've talked about that a million times. The financials, the gap that's referred to by a couple of them is really kind of getting into that the chip. That's what we've talked about, TIF and chip for the building the infrastructure. And some of them point out that there's going to be that gap. It's like, well, that gap is already accounted for in these other pieces. So I was actually quite optimistic. I finished reviewing all of them last night, and I was actually quite optimistic. It looked like we had a good mix. Some of them aren't going to make it, in my opinion, but a couple of them are certainly worthy of additional review. I would recommend certainly following up with Stephanie, making sure we continue to go forward, because the biggest piece is we have this grant application for CDBG-DR that will be going in January. And the whole premise that we have built on working with the state and with our eligibility is to go through and say, we've got a process. We were bumped out of the first one because we didn't have a developer. That was a mistake. But even with that, we still had to get a developer if we're going to convince the board, the VCDP board, that we have a project where we can assure that board that we are going to be able to have their required housing units done by 2030. And if we don't even have a process, or if we had a process that kind of got blown up, then that's not going to give them much confidence to go and give us $8 million to put in the infrastructure to Country Club Road. So it's very critical that we continue to move forward. And if things go, there's no guarantees that this RFQ process will work. We've never said that, but we do know it won't work if we don't try. And so we at least have to be moving forward, trying and giving ourselves the opportunity to get in what would total $11 million in grants to get the infrastructure ready to go. So when this goes, we're there and ready to go.
Great. Thanks, Mike. Well, look, with that.
Can I, I just want to chime in and just say, I really agree. And I think that there's actually the enormous risk in pausing right now. I mean, I was really pleasantly surprised that we got as many letters of interest as we did, and to then say, never mind, we're going to pause. I feel like the next time we put out an RFP, it would, fool me once kind of thing. And then the other thing I would just say too is I really, we have heard a lot of questions or concerns about the process in terms of the environmental review. At a previous meeting, we heard about NEPA. And I just want to make sure that we're clear on this, that, with Northern Borders funding or with HUD funding, the NEPA review process comes after an award has been made, and none of the funds are released until there's a notice to proceed, right? So the idea that there's going to be a clawback is not accurate, because we will have had to go through a NEPA review before any funds will be released or a notice to proceed is given. So that's one of the joys of federal funding, is the robust oversight of the process to ensure that we don't, do something wrong. And so I just really want to put that out there. Of course, we need to do further environmental assessment. That will be part of the funding process, and we won't get any money unless we do it. So, we've got great partners at the state who are going to help us do this the right way.
Great, thank you for that, Ben. With that as background, I suggest we move
and
on.
I have one other thing.
Yeah.
Sorry, just
go
real
ahead.
quick, and maybe this isn't the time. Well, just one last thing, and this is really maybe a question for Stephanie around and this is later in the process,
You're breaking up a little.
but assuming we get response. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah,
Now
why don't
we
you
can,
turn
yeah.
off your video and just
Yeah, okay, sorry, just one sec.
breaking up.
I don't know if you can hear me. I guess
Yep.
my question is, when we get responses to the RFP and we see pro formas from different companies, we'll obviously need to do a financial analysis of those to see if the math works. And my question is, who is going to do that financial analysis? I know it's not part of the scope of your work. I don't believe that we have capacity or expertise on staff. As brilliant and as capable as our staff is, I'm wondering, are we planning on an independent third party underwriting process for the project to check the math?
So I actually think it is part of my scope. Well, I would consider it part of my scope. I don't know if it was specifically called out as such. It is something we do. That is what we do. But if you would like a third party to do it, that's also perfectly acceptable. It's completely up to you.
Yeah.
You're breaking up.
Didn't hear you, Ben. Broke up.
I guess I'm sorry. I didn't realize that talk about that, but I think it's just something that we need to understand.
Yep. Yep. That is something we do, and it is what it's what we do usually in all of these processes. It's what we've done, we did for the city when we were looking at the hotel development, when we were doing the TIF partnership for the garage years ago. But if it would be helpful, maybe that's something I'll just put on my homework list, is to provide you with kind of a background of how we would approach something like that. And then also, if you wanted to engage a third party instead, who I would, some ideas of folks that do that kind of work.
Yeah, I know. I was going to suggest that. That would be helpful, Stephanie,
Sure.
if you wouldn't mind.
Yep.
Yeah. Thanks,
Okay.
Ben. Good. I'm glad you brought that up. Okay. Do we want to try and schedule another meeting now, or do we want to?
Yeah, I was wondering if we should try to schedule something between now and the date it has to go to in the city council packet, which is the 12th, because the only other meeting we have is 1 hour next Wednesday. And I'm not clear we have to have another meeting. Let me just be clear. I think it's actually, we've got a lot. If we can get through a lot today, do we want to just pin this for the end of the meeting, Sal? We could.
Sure, that's fine. We can always try and do that by email if we run
we
out of
could.
time.
We started,
okay.
But yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Let's jump into it.
So then the next piece is the RFP. So we need to talk about the RFP timeline. That was where we left off. So one question we had was about how the elections in March might affect our timeline. So I'll go through this now, actually, if I can. Let me just see if I can open it here on this screen. All right. I don't think you're seeing mine yet. Hold on.
Not yet, but it's coming up.
Okay. All right. That should
Got
be
it.
up. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we kind of finished this, the rest of this, although I'll send another final version between now and our next meeting for you to finalize if you have any other further edits to this. But we did a lot of this before Thanksgiving. So I just want to draw your attention to this part. This is where we kind of left off. So we have the RFP going out after the council meeting, which would be the 19th. That gives us 2 days after the council meeting. On January 7th is the deadline for any questions. January 12th, we'll send out the responses. And then we talked about having, this is kind of not directly related, but I thought it would be helpful, at least on our planning side of things, to put into our timeline, which is this housing kind of summit public forum that we talked about doing. And maybe it comes up in January or February. I'm not sure exactly, but that kind of dovetails with this work. And then have the proposals due on the 4th. We talked about the sticking with the existing kind of practices of how to get feedback to counselors. And so, letting folks see the proposals, have them posted starting on the 5th and have the opportunity for public to send their questions to the subcommittee members specifically first. And maybe we do a window here so that it's, February 5th through the 12th is, opportunity for public to send comments, and then February 12th through the 5th or something are when we may do interviews. And then we host the interviews. We don't have those specifics yet. And we're recommending, because of the dates by which this would be, along with the meeting schedule, it may be March 25th, but we also talked about maybe doing a special meeting just for this and not putting it on a regular agenda. So that could move up if you wanted to pick a different date. So I wanted to get your feedback on that. And that unfortunately is after town meeting day, but I honestly don't see a way around that. So I had one legal question, which is, could the subcommittee, before town meeting day, this is just an option. I don't know if this is what the council would want, if any of you would want this, but could the council delegate the 3 of you, or the 2 of you, I guess specifically Sal and Adrian, who are up for re-election, to stay on the subcommittee, whether you're elected or not, see either as counselors or as members of the public, if you're not re-elected. And that way you have the continuity with the subcommittee that then has to make a recommendation to the full council, and the full council may be a different council after town meeting day. I don't know if that's possible. I don't know how subcommittees are technically structured, but I just throw that out as an option to think about.
I think it'll have to stay there because I have no idea.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So I'll pass that back
Yeah, I
to
don't
Kelly
either.
to ask of
Yeah.
council. Okay.
All right. So I mean, there doesn't seem any way around this, really.
I don't think so.
The elections are when they are, and this seems like it's a fairly, it's a reasonable schedule. I think it's.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not hyper aggressive. We could make it more aggressive and try to get in that get a council decision before that, but it just feels rushed.
No, I think
Yeah.
we need the time that's built in here. What do others agree on that? Pretty much.
I do agree. I mean, I think it's unfortunate timing, but I think to try and be more aggressive with a timeline, I don't think would be ultimately helpful, and I think, the point of having a good process and all these kinds of things is ideally, counselors, if there's new counselors or old counselors, that that the process has helped inform them and they're making informed decisions.
Yeah, no. Adrian, kind of agree with that?
Yep, that's good.
Yeah, okay.
Do we want to include a target date to have an executed development agreement? You don't have to, because depending on the nature of the project, for example, one of them is for just one phase for a small component of the full build out. Another proposal is for the full build out. So those are two different type of development agreements. One is going to be significantly more complicated. So one might take 6 months to negotiate. The other might take 2 months. So if there was a reason you wanted to have a target date in there, we could put it in.
It
And I
feels a
don't know,
tad,
Mike, if that would help at all in the funding applications, but
yeah, it feels a tad premature to me at this point, but I'd be interested in Mike's input and others.
Yeah, I don't know if I would be able to put one in, as Stephanie said. It's going to be difficult. The projects I've worked on, they come in with such different factors, and some of them are on their end. They may not feel comfortable signing on to something until they reach a certain point either. So,
mhm.
we may get into a negotiation. Let's say we get an award, but we don't have a grant agreement yet for the disaster recovery funds. And somebody might be like, well, I'd rather see that get signed before I
Yeah.
sign on to investing money on development and permitting. So I think we could wait. I don't think it's there, but at the same time, we also don't want it dragging on. If we pick somebody,
Yeah,
and
we could put that
then
in.
they basically, kind of keep us on the end of the leash for 6, 9, 12 months, then we're like, hey, we could have picked somebody else, and you either need to sign or not sign. We've got to make it. So I think at some point we'll need a date in there. I don't know if we need it now, would, I guess, be my waffly answer to that. I think we'll need it at some point to be able to push somebody who may be dragging their feet. But at the same time, I don't want to arbitrarily put somebody in a bind because they don't think they're going to be able to sign on the line.
I wonder if we could put in, first of all, we could do target of 60 days to sign an LOI. LOIs are non-binding. They're more of a kind of a bit of a better handshake. It feels a little more like creating the partnership with some like baby steps. So that could be a good first thing. And then we could put in some language about needing to be efficient and expedient on development of the DA, and we reserve the right to revisit the selection process depending on those factors. I mean, I think that reservation language might already be in there anyway, but I'll double check. I think that's standard. It's good practice anyway to give yourselves an out that this selection doesn't mean you're binding either.
Why don't we? I kind of like the idea of prepping language like that we can mull over between now and the time we have to
Yep,
finalize the RFP, and then we can
absolutely.
decide go or no go at that point. Yeah.
Correct. Yep. Okay. All right. Okay. See, it says right here, no contractual obligations shall rise from this RFP until a formal written development agreement is executed. So it kind of covers this anyway, but it doesn't hurt to kind of make that a little bit more thorough. All right. So that's the timeline. Thank you for the input. That way I will get a revised version of that out to you in the next few days. The next step is to talk about the qualifications review process. So now we get into this a little bit. We've got 25 minutes left. So, we received 9 submittals. We received 2 of those submittals were not true proposals. They did not meet all the qualifications criteria for the qualifications submittal. So, based on, and I had each of you submit to me a matrix, filled and completed matrix with your quantitative and qualitative responses to the proposals. And it was clear that you all agree, and so you can talk about it if you'd like, but those 2 that were submitted by Evergreen and Rift are really helpful data points and really wonderful resources, I think, that should be tabled for now, just as a for this particular step. I don't think you need to proceed to do the RFP with them, but they are really helpful resources. So I would advise that we respond to those folks with a clear thank you and also stand by. We're not sure if we're going to need those resources right now. That's unclear, but it's nice to have those as possible partners in
I
the
assume they were not
building.
offering free services.
I believe Evergreen was. I don't
Oh,
believe they were expecting a fee. They were talking about it as a I mean, they have a long view of this because they're
mhm.
a larger company that wants to see Vermont develop, but can't see quite the way to do it. So they want to see if they can be part of the solution and without any responsibility or expectation of being um, considered as a developer if they were to come up with a solution that resulted in a different RFP process. But I think at this point, yeah, if you were to want their services, we should talk about that. But it sounded to me from the feedback I got from the three of you that that wasn't of interest at this time.
I think it's definitely, I really appreciate your approach of thanks so much, like, and we'll engage you as needed. Like, I think at this point, we don't need to move forward with an RFP with them.
Because we have so many other options,
Right.
and I think those were really valuable resources that could have been helpful if we got nothing, but we have some that are telling us that it is viable for them. Okay.
Yeah, I
With
agree.
that remains 7
Andrew, yeah.
proposals. And I was able to look at your quantitative. I didn't receive everybody's matrices until kind of later in the day yesterday, so I haven't had a chance to fully consolidate the tables. And what I propose to do is that after this meeting, I consolidate them and pull together the commonality. Most of them were very common, all the responses. So in that way, I could pull that together and send that back to you for feedback, just sent directly to me between now and the next meeting. And that way we can come up with a clear, then we can talk about those in the next meeting about what were the pros and cons of each one, the positives and negatives of each one. But I will say that quantitatively, the three of you all picked the same top 5. So there were no outliers. There were clear 5 strong proposals. The other 2 weren't not strong. They were just not as strong. So I think that's helpful to be able to proceed. But my recommendation is that we need to have something that's in writing that's clarifying quantitatively and qualitatively so that those who receive an invitation know why and those who and where their qualifications might have had a little lapse so that they can strengthen that in their RFP and their proposal, I mean. And for those who weren't selected, that they have an understanding of why. Now, that's also pending city council approval. So this is also a tool to send this up to city council so city council is educated. With that, I'm wondering how you want to use the rest of our time today, if you want to start talking about those individual ones or what you'd like, how you'd like to do this, because I'm open. Because I'd also pinned that I'd like to hear from you about what questions you might have for individual firms or for the RF to be included in the RFP. I said that that's your homework, but we could also talk about that if you wanted to.
Well, I'll just start by saying I expected that you would be rolling up the the 3 submissions by us into a single document. That'll be extremely helpful. So that'd be something you could get out in the next few days, or
Yep.
yeah, okay, and
Yep,
then
that'll be done by the end of the day
we
tomorrow.
can review and respond to you directly, so that next meeting we'll have everybody's input on that.
Yeah.
How would we like to start? Do people have? I mean, I'd like to know, I guess, who the 5 are. I think I know who they are, but can
Okay.
you?
Do we want these in some kind of deliberative session? I mean, this is taped and open to the public that would go back if we're criticizing or having frank comments about people's proposals. These are going to be public. I don't know.
Also, another thing I wonder about, I didn't see. It sounded like Executive Suite had submitted a separate financial document, which we have not seen. At least I have not seen.
Correct. Yep, I got that
Okay.
yesterday. Actually, it was I think we had a in technical error. I didn't receive it, but it's possible it got lost in the ether. But because she forwarded me the email that had it attached, so I have that now. And that is
And
a good
that,
question, Sal.
as far as I recall, that was the only
Yeah,
document that
confident.
anybody flagged as being confidential.
Correct. So that is a good question, and How do you typically receive confidential information if you're a counselor?
Well, we often get it in an email marked confidential. I
Okay.
mean,
Okay. I
yeah.
can do that. Yep. Let me do that following this meeting.
Just in terms of how to proceed today and thinking about Mike's kind of comment, I wonder, and I just need to own up to the fact that I was the jerk that was late on getting my comments in, so I apologize for that. Don't mean to muck up the process, but I wonder if it makes the most sense to have Stephanie consolidate all the qualitative and quantitative information into a single document, share it back to us. That way we can really kind of like understand the shared concerns or questions that we have about the proposals. And then, I mean, I would welcome other thoughts, but I think we probably do need to go into, um, a deliberative session to talk about that, right? I mean, if we'd be putting ourselves at a disadvantage if we're criticizing partners that we're asking to partner
Yeah,
with
no,
us,
I
right? I
agree
mean, I
with
think
that.
it's
Yeah.
just a reality. So, so again, what I guess what I'm trying to say is like, I think we could have a more thoughtful and informed conversation once we've seen the consolidated kind of reviews of this information and then have that kind of frank conversation in a deliberative session.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, I think
Well,
that
that
makes a
does
lot
make
of
sense.
sense.
Yeah.
And, I think coming out of the meeting, um, having coming out of the session, having a clear, it's okay to, I do think it's okay to show to be very clear publicly about where there might have been shortcomings on some of these proposals. I think that's okay.
I totally agree with that, right? And
So
I
we'll
think
be able to
we
highlight
need to
those.
be able to do that, but we also just need to make sure that we have consensus on why we've made the
Mhm.
choices that we have
Yeah,
Mhm.
I agree.
and can articulate them clearly.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, it comes down to ultimately this will be a negotiation back with them for the development agreement, and you want to make sure you're on the strongest foot you can be. Okay, so given that, I think that makes a lot of sense, and I can do that. I can roll that up. Um, again, because that may contain sensitive information. Does that get considered confidential?
Um, yeah, I mean, if it does, it ought to be confidential.
Okay.
It's helpful if you can break them into two, the confidential email and the not, but
Oh
we
yeah.
can certainly
That's a
go
good
through and
suggestion.
send
Yeah.
everything out. But what that happens if there's a public records request, we know there will be, then we would have to go through and have a much more
Oh yeah.
difficult process of actually going through with the black highlighter and removing all of the confidential information, which would make it a much more complicated process. But if it's broken into two and it easily can be broken into two, that would be the most helpful, because then we can
Absolutely.
simply say those have been excluded under this statutory exemption, and these
Mhm.
are open to the public.
Mhm. Yeah.
One thing that I wanted to make clear I mean, I think this is pretty obvious, but I noticed that at least one application mentioned our number of LMI units as 16 or 18. And that's not what the requirement is. The requirement is to meet the 70%. And so we ought to make sure it's stated that way. And I mean, I'm sure we're going to do that, but I want to make sure that the developers understand that they need to meet the HUD requirement, not our guess that it's 18 units.
Right. It is going to be, yes, that's right. It is a percentage. It is based on the ultimate
Yeah.
award. It is based on the cost at the time. So it's a formula that is subject to change between now and when the final development happens. Okay.
Well, we'll have that number if and when we get approval. When the
Right.
grant agreement, when we get the approval by the board, they will go through and say, we're approving you for $8 million, and as a condition of that, you need to provide 17, or we're approving you for $4 million. We're not going to give you the full request. We'll give you 4 million, and your allocation requirement is going to be 12. We won't know until we know what the number is and that they plugged into the formula and come back to us with.
So they will actually give us a number, though.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh.
It has to be very
Okay.
black and white. Yep.
It
It'll
sure
be very,
does. Yeah.
yeah.
And then that will
'Cause we
get
have,
baked into the development agreement.
Yeah, because you don't
Yeah.
want to, you don't want to be in a position where there's any ambiguity. I would certainly not recommend to city council to have anything that would be ambiguous.
Well,
You want a number. We've got to make this many. When I make
yeah,
that
yeah,
number,
no,
you check the box and we're done.
it needs to be crystal clear.
Yeah.
I'm a little curious about the homework, Stephanie. Maybe we spend a
Yeah,
little time just
let's
making
do
sure
that.
that we get it and know when you need it.
Yeah, let's do that, and let's see if we need another meeting with our remaining time.
Okay.
So the I'll have the matrix back to you by end of day tomorrow. So what would be a reasonable turnaround time for you to respond with your feedback to that?
So how do you want us to respond to that feedback?
Actually, let me walk that back. I could
Okay.
I could have it to you by end of day, not close of business, but end of day. Since I'm going to Newport, I might be working tonight, but end of day today. So you'll have it in your inbox by first thing tomorrow morning. And the response I would look for is edits to it, the qualitative specifically, I think is where this is going to land. If there's something you disagree with that's been added, that's been included, because I'm going to try to consolidate, and there may be a comment from someone else that doesn't sit well with you that, we should highlight. And basically I'm going to highlight it. And then I think that's what you discuss next week. I'm not going to make a unilateral decision.
So it's a question of how much time people can spend and when they can spend it to review and respond.
Yeah. And make sure I didn't miss something, that you want
Yeah.
included in that particular piece of feedback.
Adrian, Ben, what's your schedule like? What do you think you can do?
I mean, I
End
guess
of the
I'm just
week?
curious, like, does it make a difference if it's Friday or Monday?
Right. Are you asking what my weekend plans are and if I want to spend them all
Well,
working on
I mean,
Montpelier?
I guess I'm trying to ask what my weekend plans are going to be.
I know. Yeah, I don't think no, it just depends on if you're going to have another meeting in between now and then. So let's talk about that, because
Oh,
I see the 3 pieces of remaining homework of this subcommittee before it gets sent up to city council is a solid final draft of the matrix, qualitative and quantitative, with the recommendation. Number 2, a final RFP. And number 3, questions you may have that you want, or feedback you want specifically. It's more like the questions you have, anything specific you want asked of those development teams, not necessarily before you make your recommendation to council, but again, feedback for them to include within their proposal. And so if those are the 3 pieces of homework remaining, is one more meeting of an hour next Wednesday enough time?
I would say no, but
yeah.
Okay.
my time is more a bit open than you guys. So
And looking at it, and we had some calendar hockey last week trying to figure out a time, and it didn't result in a goal. So what I'm trying to look at is that's backing into when your homework is due. Because if, for example, we want to meet on Monday at 8 a.m., then I'm going to need your feedback by Friday. So what is
if we had a Friday morning meeting, would that work for people, or is that
next Friday? You mean the 12th?
no? I'm talking
Oh,
about this Friday.
I don't think that'll work because people are going to get this in their inbox tomorrow morning, and then they'll have to turn it around. I'll have to they'll have to turn it around to me.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry to do scheduling like right now, but like, I mean, if we need to meet on Monday morning, I can do that. If we could meet on Tuesday morning, it would be great to have the weekend.
What about, how is Tuesday at 8 for everybody? Or 8:30 or whatever? 8. Adrian says 8. Okay.
8 works for me. Yeah.
Yeah, works for me too.
Yeah, I
Okay.
just have like work starts at 9.
Right.
Work.
Meetings for work at 9.
What are you thinking? Sure. 8 a.m. on the 9th then.
Great.
Followed by 8 a.m. on the 10th.
On the 10th. Yeah.
Okay.
Is that enough time, Mike or Evelyn or someone to tell me about to put that on the schedule, warn it, or whatever you need to do? The 9th.
I think
Yes.
it is plenty of time. Yeah.
Okay. It's not my expertise. Okay. If Evelyn can hear us, can you take care of putting that on the agenda and sending out an email?
Yeah,
Or
she was putting thumbs up, and they
You did.
might not be coming across on your
Okay,
screen.
sorry.
Yeah,
I'm
okay.
She's
I'm
giving
in
you the
multiple
thumbs up.
screens right now. Okay, perfect. Perfect. Okay. So that means yes, you have till Monday morning to get me your feedback. How's that? Okay. Monday morning, 9 a.m. to get me your feedback. So I have Monday to put that together. Okay, thanks. All right. So you'll get that in your inbox by tomorrow morning, and then you'll get that back to me by Monday morning at 9 a.m. And that's the matrix. And then I would ask that you just send me any questions too. I think those are probably they go hand in hand. I will try to send you the updated RFP at the same time, but I don't know that we're gonna have a ton of time. I think that should be the Wednesday meeting, particularly. Let's finalize that along with anything else that needs to happen on Wednesday.
So, matrix comments and questions by Monday morning?
Yep.
Okay.
And RFP responses by, let's say, Tuesday afternoon or Tuesday morning, because then, if I send that to you sometime between now and probably Friday of this week, that should be enough time to get back to me and have that ready by the Wednesday morning meeting. Whew. Guys make me sweat for this stuff. I feel like I'm always hustling. Okay. That was everything
That's
on
our
my.
goal, Steph.
What's that?
That's our goal, is to keep you on your toes.
That's right.
Okay, what else have we got?
That was everything.
Yeah.
You did
Holy
it.
moly. We're actually done early. If there's nothing else
I
from
just think
anyone,
I just do want to say, like, we should just pause and celebrate and acknowledge that we got 9 responses
Yeah.
it
to the
is.
RFQ.
Yeah. No, it
I gotta
was,
say, like, I did not expect that, and
it
I'm
didn't
like
look good
really
there for a
pleasantly
while.
surprised. So I just want to say, like,
Yeah.
it's happening. We're doing it. It's good.
It really is. I second that, Ben, and having done this in many places where that's not the case. This is really good news, and it's good to have the variety that you got, a lot of
Yes.
different variety, both in the depth of the, teams, the experience of the teams, and the different variety of the actual proposals. And I think it's bodes well for you to have a really substantive variety of proposals to see. And then I think the question, remains about the financial capacity and how this will work. But if you've got this many qualified people saying they're interested, now they may come back and say, actually, we can't make this work. So let's, level set our expectations a little bit.
Absolutely.
Because once they really get into putting pen to paper, that's their job, is to make sure they're going to be able to make it work. But it's good to see that some folks have a lot of folks have the confidence this could work.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's clear, like, this is going to be a long journey,
Yes.
right? But like,
Yes.
to have made these steps, I think is
Yeah.
really critical, and it's great that we
Yeah.
got the response that we did.
Yeah.
So I have never seen a response to an RFP for development of any size. Is that something that some past project I could just take a look at it?
You're
Is there a
saying
place to, is there a
not
work? Yeah.
like you're asking if there was ever an RFP for multiple like versions of something, or rather than just one set idea?
Well, I'm just wondering what the submittal, what to expect in the submittal, the final submittal to the RFP,
We
what
want
they're
to
going
see
to
a,
say,
a
what they're
response
going
from
to.
another project, right?
Oh, sure.
I've never seen one, and it might help me evaluate the
Mm-hmm.
RFP if I can see
Mm-hmm.
what the package that they actually send.
Sure. Sure. And, I want to comment that, I think the weighting of the proposal or submittal from the qualifications, I think we weighted it fairly low, that like the quality or the completeness of it's not super low, but it wasn't the highest ranking, is that everybody's submission, as you could see, was slightly different. And they were all good. I have to say, they were all pretty solid. We've seen some that are really thin, but really powerful and important and did what they end up being, the developer, and they do a great job. It doesn't have to be lengthy and repetitive to be considered a good qualification submittal. So I was pleasantly pleased with what we got in quality. But relative to the proposals, yes, I will send you something as an example.
Yeah, and lots of variety. I mean, 80 pages and 8 pages.
Yeah.
It was very.
Yeah. But
all over the place.
it's
Yeah.
good to see you didn't disqualify an 8-page because it's
Yeah.
still had the validity there. So.
But if you could, it'd be helpful just
Yep.
some anonymous, I don't know, it couldn't be anonymous probably. There's no way to
No, and they're
block
public.
all that
I
out.
think
But
it's
something
public.
that I could look at be helpful, I think.
Sure.
So, okay.
You can do that.
Great. All right. Well, thank you all.
I'll use my extra 4 minutes to get going on this.
There you go.
Thanks.
Have a good one. Thanks,
See you
everybody.
See
guys.
everybody.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Thank you all.
ciao.